14-year-old Marcus sat in the back of his biology classroom, planning his exit strategy. Not from the classroom, from life itself. The bullying had become unbearable. His grades were collapsing. His parents were fighting constantly. He'd written the note, he'd chosen the method, he was just waiting for the right moment. Then someone sat down in the empty desk beside him, someone who shouldn't have been there, someone who changed absolutely everything. What happened in that classroom 3 months ago didn't just help Marcus pass biology, it saved his life. The figure who appeared that morning wasn't a counselor or a teacher or even another student. It was a teenage saint who died at 15 and who apparently still cares deeply about teenagers who are suffering. This is the complete story of how CarloAcutis appeared to a suicidal student and transformed not just his academic life, but his entire reason for living. Hit subscribe immediately and turn on notifications, because what you're about to hear is the most complete account of this incident that's been shared publicly. Marcus and his family have given permission for this story to be told because they want other struggling teenagers to know that help is available, even when it seems like all hope is gone. Marcus Williams lives in a suburb of Chicago. Until 3 months ago, he was drowning. The bullying started in middle school and intensified in high school. He was targeted for being quiet, for struggling socially, for not fitting in with any particular group. The harassment was relentless. Hallway shoves, online mockery, constant humiliation. Teachers either didn't notice or didn't know how to help. His grades reflected his deteriorating mental state. Classes he'd once excelled in became impossible to focus on. Homework went undone. Tests were failed. His parents, dealing with their own marital problems, responded to his academic decline with anger rather than concern. The fights at home became almost as painful as the bullying at school. Marcus felt trapped. School was torture. Home was a war zone. The future looked like more of the same, stretching endlessly ahead. At 14, he couldn't see any way out except one. He researched methods online. He wrote a letter to his parents explaining why he couldn't keep living like this. He chose a date. He was 3 days away from acting on his plan. Drop a comment right now if you or someone you know has ever felt this desperate. Mental health struggles among teenagers are at crisis levels, and we need to talk openly about how real and how dangerous these feelings become. On Monday morning, Marcus walked into his biology classroom feeling nothing. He'd moved past desperation into a kind of numb acceptance. In 3 days, this would all be over. He just had to make it through 3 more days of pretending everything was fine. He sat in his usual seat in the back corner, opened his notebook to maintain appearances, and stared at nothing. Biology was starting a new unit that day. Mrs. Chen, his teacher, was explaining something about cellular structures. Marcus wasn't listening. He was mentally reviewing his plan, making sure he hadn't forgotten any details. That's when he noticed someone sitting in the desk directly beside him. The desk should have been empty. It was always empty. No student was assigned there, and the back corner wasn't a spot anyone chose voluntarily. But someone was sitting there. A teenage boy, maybe 15 or 16, wearing jeans and a hoodie, completely relaxed, like he belonged there, looking directly at Marcus with an expression that Marcus would later describe as, like he could see everything I was feeling and wasn't scared by any of it. Marcus's first thought was confusion. Who was this? A new student? But why was he sitting in the empty desk in the back corner, instead of where Mrs. Chen would have assigned him? Marcus was about to say something when the figure spoke. Just 3 words, but spoken with such quiet certainty that they cut through all of Marcus's numbness. Not yet. Stay. Marcus blinked. The words made no sense. Not yet. Stay. What did that mean? Before he could ask, the figure did something that made Marcus's breath catch. He reached out and placed his hand, solid, real, warm, on Marcus's forearm. The touch lasted maybe 3 seconds. Then the figure smiled, not mysteriously but warmly, the way someone smiles when they know everything is going to be okay, even when you can't see how. And then he was gone. Not fading, not standing, and walking away. Just instantly, not there anymore. Marcus sat frozen, staring at the empty desk. His forearm still felt warm where the figure had touched him. Had he just imagined that? Was he losing his mind on top of everything else? He looked around the classroom. No one else seemed to have noticed anything unusual. Mrs. Chen was still lecturing. Other students were taking notes or staring at their phones under their desks. Everything was completely normal except for what had just happened. For the rest of the class, Marcus couldn't concentrate on biology. All he could think about were those 3 words. Not yet. Stay. The way the figure had looked at him with such understanding. The warmth of that hand on his arm. The certainty in that voice. Whoever or whatever that had been, it had known. It had known about the plan, about the desperation, about the 3 days Marcus had left himself. If this story is resonating with you, if you've ever felt that level of despair, or known someone who has hit that like button and share this video, Marcus's story could literally save lives if it reaches the right people at the right time. When the bell rang, Marcus didn't immediately leave. He sat in his desk, still processing what had happened. Mrs. Chen noticed him sitting there and approached. "Marcus, you okay? You seemed really distracted during class." Marcus looked at her, and for the first time in months, he told an adult the truth. Not the whole truth. He wasn't ready for that yet, but part of it. "I'm struggling with everything, school, home, all of it." Mrs. Chen sat down in the desk beside him, the same desk where the figure had appeared, and really listened. She didn't offer quick fixes or empty reassurances. She just listened. Then she said something that would become significant later. "Marcus, I don't know what you're dealing with, but I want you to know that your life matters. You matter. Whatever this is, there are people who can help. Will you talk to the school counselor?" Marcus agreed, mostly because Mrs. Chen seemed so genuinely concerned. He went to the counselor's office that afternoon and for the first time told someone about the bullying, the family conflict, and how close he'd come to giving up. The counselor immediately contacted his parents and initiated both individual counseling for Marcus and family therapy for the whole family. That evening, Marcus's parents sat him down for a conversation that was completely different from their usual fights. They listened. They apologized for not noticing how much he was struggling. They committed to getting help for their marriage and being more present for him. It wasn't a magical fix. The problems didn't disappear, but it was a beginning. But Marcus couldn't stop thinking about the figure in the classroom. Who was that? What had that been? 2 days later, he was in the library trying to focus on homework when he noticed a book someone had left on the table. The cover showed a teenage boy in jeans and casual clothes, smiling at the camera. The title was about saints, specifically young saints. Marcus picked it up and started flipping through pages. When he reached the section on CarloAcutis, his hands started shaking. That was him. That was the face he'd seen in the classroom. The same friendly expression, the same confident warmth, the same age. CarloAcutis, a 15-year-old Italian teenager who died in 2006 and was canonized as a saint in 2024. Marcus read the entire chapter right there in the library. Carlo had been a normal teenager who loved computers, played video games, wore jeans and hoodies, but he was also deeply faithful, attending Mass daily and creating a website cataloging Eucharistic miracles worldwide. He died of leukemia at 15, offering his suffering for the Pope and for young people who didn't know Jesus. And apparently, from heaven, he was still reaching out to teenagers who needed help. Marcus checked out the book and took it home. He read everything he could find online about CarloAcutis. The more he learned, the more certain he became that Carlo was who had appeared in his classroom. But why? Why would a saint appear to him? He wasn't particularly religious. His family went to church occasionally but weren't deeply involved. He'd never prayed to Carlo, he'd never even heard of him before. Share this video right now with teenagers, parents, teachers, youth ministers, anyone who works with young people. They need to know that heaven is actively intervening in teenage crises, even when those teenagers aren't asking for help. Marcus decided to try something. That night, alone in his room, he spoke out loud to CarloAcutis. He felt awkward and wasn't sure he believed anyone was actually listening, but he tried. Carlo, if that was really you in my classroom, thank you. You stopped me from doing something terrible. Those 3 words, not yet, stay. They got through when nothing else could. I'm still struggling. The bullying hasn't stopped. My family is still a mess, but I'm here. I'm staying. Can you help me figure out how to actually live instead of just survive? Nothing dramatic happened. No voice answered. No figure appeared. But Marcus felt something shift inside him, a sense that he wasn't alone, that someone was listening, that maybe there was a reason to keep going after all. Over the following weeks, things started changing. Not magically, not all at once, but gradually. The counseling sessions were actually helping. His parents' marriage was improving. At school, he connected with 2 other students who'd also been targeted by bullies, and they formed a friendship that gave all 3 of them strength. His grades started slowly recovering as his mental state stabilized, but the most significant change was internal. Marcus started each day by talking to Carlo. Not formal prayers, just conversations. Telling him about what he was facing that day, asking for help with specific challenges, thanking him for the intervention that saved his life. Marcus began to feel that talking to Carlo was like having an older brother who understood teenage struggles because he'd lived through them recently. 2 months after the classroom appearance, something else happened. Marcus was walking home from school when he saw a younger student being bullied by a group of older kids, the same kind of harassment he'd endured for years. His instinct was to walk past, keep his head down, avoid getting involved. But he heard a voice in his head, not audible but clear, saying, "Help him." Marcus stopped, turned around, walked back toward the group. He wasn't confrontational or aggressive. He simply inserted himself into the situation, stood beside the younger kid, and said calmly, "Leave him alone." The bullies, surprised by the intervention, made some half-hearted threats but eventually walked away. The younger student looked at Marcus with grateful eyes and asked, "Why did you help me?" Marcus thought about the question. Why had he helped? A few months ago, he couldn't have. He'd been too broken himself. But something had changed. "Because someone helped me when I needed it. And because you matter. You deserve to get home safely." The younger student nodded, thanked him, and walked away. Marcus continued home feeling something he hadn't felt in years: purpose. Comment below if you've ever experienced a moment where you realized your suffering had prepared you to help someone else. That transformation of pain into purpose is one of the most powerful forms of healing. Marcus started noticing other opportunities to help. A classmate struggling with an assignment in a subject Marcus understood. A friend going through family problems similar to what Marcus had experienced. Small moments where his own suffering gave him insight and compassion that let him make a difference for someone else. 3 months after Carlo's appearance, Marcus sat down and wrote a letter. Not a suicide note, a thank you letter. He addressed it to CarloAcutis and wrote out everything that had happened since that morning in biology class. How the 3 words, "not yet, stay," had interrupted his plan and made him reconsider. How that led to getting help. How his life was still hard but no longer unbearable. How he was finding purpose in helping others who were struggling like he had. He ended the letter with a commitment. "Carlo, you saved my life. I don't understand why you chose to appear to me, but I'm grateful. I promise I'll use the life you saved to help other people who are where I was. I'll stay, and I'll try to make staying worth it." Marcus shared his story publicly for the first time last week during a youth group meeting at his church. He stood in front of 40 teenagers and told them about the bullying, the suicidal plan, the appearance in the classroom, and the transformation that followed. He showed them the picture of CarloAcutis and said, "This is who appeared to me. This is who told me to stay. If you're struggling like I was, if you're thinking about giving up, I'm telling you the same thing he told me. Not yet. Stay. Your life matters more than you know." After the meeting, 7 students approached Marcus privately. All 7 admitted they'd been having suicidal thoughts. All 7 asked for help. Marcus connected each of them with counselors, gave them CarloAcutis prayer cards, and promised to check in with them regularly. One of those 7 students later told his parents that Marcus's story saved his life. That's the ripple effect of Carlo's intervention. One appearance in a classroom 3 months ago has now touched at least 8 lives directly, Marcus and the 7 students he's helped, and countless others indirectly through the story spreading. Mrs. Chen, Marcus's biology teacher, submitted a written account of the incident to the school's Catholic chaplain. She documented the day Marcus seemed severely depressed and distracted, the conversation they had after class, and the dramatic positive changes in his demeanor and academic performance in the weeks following. The chaplain forwarded her account to diocesan officials who investigate potential miraculous events. Will this case eventually be officially investigated as a potential miracle? Possibly. The documentation exists. Multiple witnesses can confirm Marcus's deteriorating state before the incident and his transformation afterward. Marcus himself is willing to testify about what he experienced. But official church investigations move slowly and cautiously, as they should. Whether or not this receives official recognition as a miracle doesn't change what happened. A suicidal teenager was ready to die. A figure appeared and spoke 3 words that interrupted that plan. That teenager got help, recovered, and is now helping others. The appearance matches CarloAcutis precisely. And the spiritual fruit, multiple lives changed, young people choosing life over death, is undeniable. Marcus's parents have spoken publicly about what they witnessed. His father said, "We almost lost our son. We were so focused on our own problems that we didn't see how much he was suffering. Whatever happened in that classroom that morning saved Marcus's life. We don't care whether it's officially declared a miracle. To us, it's absolutely a miracle. Our son is alive. He's thriving. He's helping other kids who are struggling. That's all the proof we need." His mother added something that brings tears to everyone who hears it. "I thank God every single day that CarloAcutis appeared to Marcus. I thank that saint for caring about a struggling teenager he never met. I thank him for those 3 words that my son heard when he couldn't hear anything else. I believe Carlo is watching over young people who are suffering, and I pray he appears to every teenager who needs what Marcus needed that morning." Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications for more stories of CarloAcutis' intercession in the lives of young people. These accounts are emerging more frequently since his canonization, and we're committed to documenting and sharing them. Marcus has started a small ministry at his school. He's created a space where students who are struggling can come talk to someone who understands. He keeps CarloAcutis prayer cards in his backpack and gives them to anyone who seems to need hope. He's open about his own struggles, his suicidal crisis, and the appearance that saved his life. His vulnerability has created safety for others to share their own pain. His biology grade recovered from failing to solid B. More importantly, his reason for living recovered from non-existent to clear and purposeful. He's planning to study psychology in college with the goal of becoming a counselor for at-risk teenagers. "Carlo saved my life," Marcus says. "The least I can do is spend that life helping other people." The empty desk where Carlo appeared is still in Mrs. Chen's classroom. Marcus sits beside it every day. Sometimes during difficult moments he glances at that desk and remembers 3 words, 1 touch, 1 smile, 1 teenage saint who cared enough to cross from heaven into a biology classroom and interrupt a suicide plan. That's the power of saintly intercession. That's why we honor saints and ask for their prayers, not because they're magical or because they replace Jesus, but because they're alive in heaven, they care about us on earth, and they can intercede powerfully with God on our behalf. CarloAcutis understood teenage suffering because he was a teenager. He understands modern struggles because he lived recently enough to experience them. And apparently he's actively watching over young people who need intervention. If you're a teenager watching this and you're struggling, please hear this. Your life matters. Whatever you're facing, bullying, family problems, academic pressure, mental health struggles, loneliness, hopelessness, it can get better. Help is available. Adults care, even if it doesn't always seem like it. And according to Marcus's testimony, heaven cares too. CarloAcutis might be watching over you right this second. If you're having suicidal thoughts, please reach out. Call the suicide prevention hotline in your country. Talk to a trusted adult. Get professional help. Do what Marcus did after Carlo's intervention. Tell someone the truth about how you're struggling. You don't have to face this alone. If you're a parent or teacher, please watch the young people in your life carefully. Marcus's parents missed the signs until it was almost too late. Teachers saw him struggling, but didn't realize the depth of his crisis. Learn the warning signs. Create spaces where teenagers feel safe being honest about their pain. Listen when they try to tell you something's wrong. Marcus wants everyone to know one thing. If CarloAcutis appeared to me, he can appear to anyone. I wasn't special. I wasn't particularly faithful. I was just desperate and suffering. And somehow that got heaven's attention. If you're desperate and suffering right now, you have heaven's attention too. Stay. Not yet. There's more for you here. Saint CarloAcutis, guardian of struggling teenagers, pray for every young person watching this who feels hopeless. Intercede for those planning to harm themselves. Appear to those who need visible reminder that heaven sees them and cares about them. Give parents and teachers wisdom to recognize suffering before it becomes crisis. And help all of us remember that every life matters, every struggle is worth surviving, and that staying is always worth it. Amen.